Welcome to Cooking with Dan Leslie. My name is Janet Rapisardi-Hoff. Thank you for joining me this evening with Dan. How you doing, Dan?
Good, Janet. How you doing?
Good. What are we doing this evening?
We had a couple of dishes we were going to do. I was going to, the main thing I wanted to do today was do a little pesto. I wanted to make a little basil pesto and toss it with some pasta and show our viewers how they could, it's one of these things that can turn into a nightmare if you're not careful.
Oh.
All right, and the basil's a wonderful thing. You can see we've taken some
the basil's
some
nice
basil
and
leaves.
fresh.
We've peeled them, and you got to be very careful to wash these leaves thoroughly because you can really get some grit into them. You want to soak them for a long time, maybe in some cold water, and just let the dirt go to the bottom. Wiggle it again, change the water. You just have to make sure it's clean.
Okay.
So what we're going to do with it, a lot of times you see that they had the that mortar and pestle sort of thing where they grind the garlic. Right. Well, I don't know, but we use a food processor here.
Okay.
Basically, we're going to mix some these basil leaves, this garlic, and some olive oil in this food processor over here, and then we're going to show our viewers how we toss it and produce it. It's one thing to get the basil, whether you bought it store-bought or not, but it's another thing to get it. You can really bruise the basil very easily if you get too much heat on it. So you don't want to focus on getting this basil super, super hot. You want to let the heat of the pasta take care of it and pretty much have the basil out at room temperature. I recommend doing it fresh. It's just got that incredible fragrance to it.
Sure
But you know,
does.
some of the store-bought stuff is okay. The main thing is putting it on the plate, whether you bought it in the store or you did it yourself. We're also going to do a loin of pork dish. We had a request to do our shrimp scampi, so I'm going to try to accommodate a few of our viewers with that.
Ooh,
and I had a
those are
veal
huge.
dish we were going to produce. All right, I guess what we're going to do is get the loin of pork going first. Okay, it's a Pizzaiola style, and I wanted to show our viewers how we brown the pork to the bottom of the pan. We were going to actually finish it in the oven and show the depth of flavor we can give your average tomato sauce. We were going to add our marinara to it, but just give it a little bit of a twist, so it had sort of a different kick to it. I wonder what I should do first, Janet, here. I'm not sure which one we're going to do. I guess we'll get the pork in the pan. We'll get this loin of pork in the pan first. We got a couple of combinations we're going to make. I'll get a little oil in the pan. And then I guess we'll make the basil pesto. I'll toss the pasta in. We'll see if we can make some sort of combination here to expedite. I don't want to get the pan too hot here, and I'm going to flour. These are very thick. We don't have them this thick all of the time, but occasionally we do them this way. Actually, this could be dinner for 2 people. All right, we'll make it we'll think in terms of dinner for 2. You can see those things are colossal.
Okay.
They're about a half a pound each. And I want to be very careful. I want to brown them, but I don't want to, we're going to finish them in the oven. We're going to sear them in the pan, brown them in the pan, and finish them in the oven. I feel like by cooking something that thick in a pan for that period of time, it's going to cause it to get rather dry. The oven temperature seems to baby it a little bit.
Okay.
So I'm going to turn the flame down to about halfway. And I guess I'll get started on this pesto here. We want to run it through the food processor, and we don't want to, we want to have it in there as little as possible. You know, we don't want to just beat it up totally. We want to get it in position to toss with the pasta as quickly as possible.
And that's because the basil is so fragile?
Yes.
Okay.
I'll save that leaf for a little bit of a garnish. Alrighty. We'll put these leaves in here.
Now this, I'm sure, is going to be very interesting for our viewers at home because most of us just go to the store and buy the
Right,
little
you
jars.
can do that also. You can do that also. You can add a little garlic.
We'd rather not, but
I know, but it's...
after the show, we won't.
Yeah, but so many people have the basil in their gardens in the summers and stuff like that. You know, it's just a nice thing. It's not that difficult. The main thing is that the basil's washed and that you do have a food processor. It's going to climb the sides of the processor. From time to time, we're just going to work it downward a little bit. Okay, it's getting to where it's kind of a paste. You can see inside there that it's breaking it down pretty nicely. I'll just give it a little bit more. that about does it. And I'll take this out, and I guess I'll put it just on a little plate right here. So nice and bright green. You don't see the store-bought stuff usually that green.
No,
like that,
not at
you know.
all.
It's got that
Actually,
nice
you don't get
fragrance
the
to it.
yes, you don't get that aroma when you buy something store-bought either.
Right, right. But this is really nice stuff. It really does something great to the pasta dishes, you know. But the main thing is actually the heat that you're taking it off in. I almost forgot to mention to you that the basic recipe for the pestos have pine nuts in them.
Oh.
But I do a lot of different dishes that call for basil pesto to get tossed this way or that way, and a lot of times you just can't have. It isn't a matter of cost, but we avoid using the pine nuts. I feel like the main thing though is the olive oil, the garlic, and the basil. Okay.
Okay.
All right, I can see that pork is moving a little bit. Let's see if we're going to try to brown it to the bottom of the pan, and we want to be very careful not to have too much oil in there. Maybe take a little bit out. Not browning quite the way I wanted it to. I guess while we're doing that, I wanted to serve this pesto with some linguine. I'll toss the linguine into our little pot here. And while the pork is cooking, we'll attempt to finish the our pesto dish. We're also going to do a veal cutlet dish with a little white wine and some shallot and some lemon, and we were going to do that scampi like I had told you.
Ooh,
I guess maybe we'll do that scampi now. But these other dishes are taking just a little longer to do. Again, I don't do the shrimp scampi the traditional way. Most of the ways you'll see it produced is where it's with some oil and wine and garlic and butter and whatnot, and they put it under a broiler and they'll put it over some rice or some pasta to catch the liquid. And we just do it a little differently. We don't bread it, but we do dust it with some breadcrumbs, and it helps crisp it up a little bit in the pan. We toss the oil, we cook it out, that we cooked it in, and produce the sauce in the pan. So it's just the shrimp and the sauce by itself. Okay, it's a little different, but it's real tasty and real nice. So I'll add a little oil to the pan. I can hear that pork moving just a little bit. Want to be careful not to have too much oil in here. That's very important. Get a nice hot flame. So I got some nice jumbo shrimp.
Now, when our viewers are looking to reproduce the shrimp, is there a size they should ask for, or is it just jumbo?
Yes. These are U15s. They're very large shrimp. I mean, they get very large. They're U12s, U10s, and you get these monsters that you need a baseball bat
I mean, they're
to
pretty
handle.
big.
Yeah, right. The shrimp that ate New Orleans, right? But these are real nice sized shrimp, a real good jumbo shrimp. You know, they're a little. Some of these supermarkets advertise the jumbo shrimp, but you can see we're not breading them. There's no liquid egg and flour and that sort of thing here. We're just dusting them a little bit. We just want to get a little crisp on the outside. They're not going to taste breaded. Let's see, the linguine's moving along there. We got the pork is browning up. Hopefully I haven't bit off more than I can chew here. Thank you. I didn't put that much linguine in the pan, in the pot, but I just wanted to have enough just to give you the idea of what we were trying to do here. Okay, you see how they're browning nice? It's getting to the bottom of the pan a little bit. And in a second or two, we're going to finish those in the oven and produce a sauce. You can see here that we have this in a nice cast iron pan, and I have as little oil in there as possible. If I need some, I'll add some more, but you don't want to drown this. Basically, when I tip the shrimp over, I want to just be in the process of finishing the dish. Okay? We don't want to be cooking it on all the sides, submerged in oil, and it gets very oily and greasy, and it just doesn't have that pop. And that's the main thing about these sautéed dishes while I'm thinking about it. there's a real fine line between something that's pretty good and something that's great. You know, something has some real jump to it. And a lot of it has to do with the amount of the oil, the pan temperature, and just a lot of experience in doing this sort of thing. It's not easy to do. It's not like putting the steak under the broiler. There's a little something to it. See that at the base of that pan? That's going to form the base of our sauce.
Okay.
All right. That's going to. We're going to add a little marinara to it. We're going to do it this pizzaiola style, and we're going to have some stock in it, so it's not a totally thick sauce. It's going to be not loose either, but just a nice consistency. But you can see these shrimp here. They're starting to brown a little bit.
Nice and golden.
We don't want to burn them, but we want to bring it all the way up to that level where they're going to be. Where the heat of the pan is going to dominate the shrimp. There we go. There we go. I might want to throw a little bit more oil in there.
And now I noticed the pan was pretty hot before you put the shrimp in there.
No. It was a pretty... But we do get the pan hot, but we don't want to start it off where we're putting it in and it is burnt. We want to bring it up a little more slowly.
Oh, okay.
Okay. All right, I'm going to take our loin of pork here. I'm going to put them in the oven. Because like I said, by the time this pork is cooked all the way through on a stovetop, forget about it. Forget about it. I'll add just a little salt to it. And we're going to finish them in the oven now and roast them. I'll put that to the side. I'll show you how we finish that. Figures everything's happening at one time here. I want this pasta nice and al dente. All right, I'll turn the linguine off. I think it's right about where we want it. And I'll finish that. I'll finish the scampi first, the pesto second, and the sauce for the pork third, okay? But you can see how these shrimp are browned very nicely.
Yeah.
I'll get them out of the way so we can see them with our camera. And you can see they're not breaded. The breadcrumbs have kind of fallen off. Mm-hmm. And they're basically there. We had kind of we're going to add a little garlic back here. And again, I've put this through the processor. We minced this up. We want it to disappear into the dish. I got a little jug of Vino Blanco here. I got some shrimp stock as a neutral.
Oh, now that's nice. I would think that would bring the flavor out significantly.
Right.
I know a lot of times you see chicken stock with fish and chicken stock with beef.
Right.
I think it's probably better that you have.
For sure.
Right.
So we're going to add a little salt and pepper. So we got some white wine, garlic, the stock as a neutral, a little salt and pepper, and we're just going to finish it with a piece of butter. And again, this is very important that we get the right consistency for this sauce. Maybe I'll put one of the larger shrimp in the center. Scatter them around here a little bit. And just let the sauce come together a little bit. And add a little parsley to it to finish the dish. And then we have a little shrimp scampi. Garnish it with some parsley. Maybe add a little larger leaf on there to bring the color up a little more. And there we have that. All right, I wanted to finish that linguine with the pesto. Again, you can use any type of pasta you want. I've chosen linguine, but we're going to take the linguine and the main thing is that we're not going to cook the basil. We have our olive oil and our pesto at room temperature. And the only thing hot here is going to be the pasta. You don't want to cook the basil. It's just going to scorch it. It's not a good thing. So I'm just going to take our linguine here and drain it. You want to get a nice light imported linguine so you don't feel like you have to rinse it at all.
Okay.
Okay. I'm going to put some in a bowl here. I think I have some Parmesan cheese out here. Get some nice Parmesan cheese that's going to melt rather quickly, and you can always put a little bit more on the top. And I'm going to add a little salt and pepper. Just one of those dishes, you know, it's just really nice stuff. You know, as you're eating it, you're wondering about its secret properties or something that can be, we're going to add a little oil to it. We'll add a little bit of oil. If we need any more, we can add it a little bit later on. Got a nice virgin olive oil here. And I can also add more of the pesto in afterwards. So all I have here is hot pasta with the Parmesan. And
there's the secret ingredient. Ooh.
And the pesto. And all these ingredients, that you want to add them twice, especially the oil. You don't want to make it too greasy. You can see that this goes a long way, this stuff.
Yeah, and that's a nice blend.
Right, right. And it's very hot. The pasta's hot. You don't have to have the sauce boiling hot also. You just don't need it. But then you don't want to take it right out of the refrigerator. Maybe get it down to room temperature. I could possibly use a tad more oil there, no?
Mm-hmm.
And you can smell that fragrance coming off of there. Yeah, isn't that nice?
Yeah.
But you don't want to, go ahead.
The basil is a nice consistency. I think when you buy it, it's kind of soupy and sort of milky.
Yeah, you want to, you can do it by yourself, get it out of your garden or steal it out of your neighbor's garden. That's what you want to do. And this is it. It's just a simple kind of thing, but it's just wonderful. And you really have to make sure it's washed well. There's such a, you think it's washed and it's not, and it gets very, very gritty. Add a little more of that to the top. And again, you can add more cheese. You can do different things with it also. I mean, we could have cooked some shrimp off, a little basil leaf garnish to it. We could have cooked some shrimp off and added the shrimp to it, julienned a little chicken with it, or just served it by itself as a side to something else that you're having for your meal, or to just have this as your main meal. But the main thing is don't cook the basil. Just add it at the end. Add it to your hot pasta, whichever pasta you've chosen.
Okay, Dan, where do we go from here?
I wanted to finish that loin of pork dish, those thick chops that we put in the oven. We started them in the pan, we browned them up real nicely, okay? And we're finishing them in the oven. It's a really good thing to do if you had some thicker pork chops or steak or something like that. You were going to make a sauce, or to start it in the pan, finish it in the oven.
Oh, okay. They're juicier that way.
I feel that way, yeah. And I should have finished this right away, deglazed the bottom of this pan. In other words, brought that brown up into the... but we were finishing the pesto at that time, so I couldn't quite get to it. Okay, so hopefully I won't burn this at all. I'll just get the pan temperature up a little bit where I could work that.
Okay.
Yeah, I saw a fellow on that TV network. He was doing different types of restaurant steaks and stuff like that, how to get that restaurant flavor into the beef, and he did it grilled. He recommended using your outdoor grill. He did a couple that were just cooked totally in a pan. And he did one under a broiler. A lot of times your household broiler isn't that strong, and he was trying to illustrate how it can get very gray. But then I was almost going to send something into him. He didn't do it this sort of way, where he pan browned it, had the oven turned up really high, and finished it in the oven like that. And I think it's just a great way to do it. All right, what we're going to do is we have a little mash of this celery and onion mixed together. We did it last time with our clam sauce. I've got a little garlic here. Gonna add a little more garlic, and I've got some white wine that's gonna bring it all together.
Oh, yes.
So it's one of these things that just it's going to be a tomato-based sauce. So we're going to cook this off a little bit and try to bring up this flavor to the wine and marry these ingredients up a little bit. Gets that celery and onion with the marinara and that garlic and that brown flavor. It just gives it a nice kick. Just going to use some penne pasta with this, so I guess I'll get it in position so that we're ready to go. So you see how that brought the whole bottom of the pan up?
Mm-hmm.
That's going to be the base of our sauce there. A little garlic and that celery and onion. White wine adds a nice little accent to it. I've got some stock here. Just want to keep it on the loose side. And I've got some of our marinara sauce here. Nice Italian tomatoes.
Oh, they look nice and fresh. Mm.
All right, so all we're going to do is reduce this, and yeah, they're great. So you can see that color it's given it, but it's a basic marinara sauce that we've sent it into another direction. Okay, you can, the shrimp fra diavolo as you do, you can saute some shrimp in the pan, put some neutral marinara, and now it's a shrimp sauce. You know, just think of the marinara as being more of a neutral like that, okay, and flavor it with other things. I'll toss our pasta into the strainer so it's not completely water laden when we go to finish the dish. I'm going to add a few olives to this. And I'm going to add a few mushrooms to it. I'm going to add some salt and some pepper. Always salt and pepper. And I've got some crushed red pepper that we put into a blender here.
I was going to ask you
know,
about
it just
that.
evaporates a little bit, it gets into the dish a little more easily. It's very, very potent. These are red pepper seeds that are, so we're not going to make it Fra Diavolo style, but we want to give it a little zip. A little parsley, I'll put a little parsley into the sauce and then I'll finish it with a little more on top. So you can see also that we did want to reduce this a little bit. And if I just put the marinara in and reduce that, it'd be very pasty and very thick. That's why we put that neutral stock in there. So it's seemingly a little watery right now.
Okay.
So when we bring it together, though, it's going to get that nice consistency without being real pasty. So I guess it's about time for us to get our little cutlets out. You see they've roasted up nicely. And what we're going to do is finish them in the pan. I guess I'll put them in now. We're going to add a little Parma cheese to the top of these. And we don't want them in the pan that long. Add a little bit of this to the top. I love the way this Parma cheese, you don't want to put too much on, but I love the way it melts on the top. It has that nice milky look. And I guess I'll get a plate ready. Because like I say, I just want to melt the cheese. I don't want to have the pork in that pan all day.
Now, is this the kind of recipe where if you
See
want
that melted? 2 seconds there. Go ahead,
oh yeah,
Janet, I'm sorry.
That's okay. If you wanted to make it hotter, would that be desirable, or is this?
Oh sure, I would. If this were just for me, I'd crank it right up. Alrighty, we're going to add our pasta. I could put the pasta on the plate, but I'm going to swish it around in the sauce a little bit, give it some nice color. I think that's enough. Okay, I'll plate it up over here. It's more than you need. It's like dinner for 2 here. I like to move it around the sauce a little bit and put just a little bit more sauce on. Pasta on the plate, little Parma cheese melted out on top, and we have this little sauce accented with the mushrooms and the olives, a little touch of red pepper, and I guess I'll just add some parsley to finish it. A little green. Keep that parsley on the top here, but it's very important that you don't try to finish a chop this thick in the pan. You dry it out. There's some loin of pork pizzaiola. All right, I guess we have time for one last little dish here, huh?
Okay.
We're going to do a veal dish. Just a veal dish. I named it after my son Nicholas, and couldn't think of anything else to call it, so I started going with family members. But we'll have the dog and the cat in there soon. We're going to put a little veal in the pan and just make a nice little light cream sauce, a little cream reduction to the sauce.
Okay.
Alrighty. Going to get this pan kind of hot. When we're doing the veal, we like to keep the amount of oil in the pan. Once again, I'd rather add a little oil to the pan as opposed to having to take it out. We want to finish it very, very quickly. And this is actual cooking time, folks. I'll add a little oil back. Maybe we'll, I'll probably end up putting a little more back in the pan, but I'd rather do that, and get this pan very hot. You don't want to flour these cutlets ahead of time. Notice we waited till the last second here.
Yeah. Because they'll generally absorb the flour, will they?
Right. It gets watery and clumpy, and it just, we're going to shake this off a little bit. It seems like it helps the veal dishes out a little bit if we shake the flour off. And you can see that pan is smoking, baby. Yeah, I'll probably have to add some oil to that. You'll hear this noise level go up a little bit when I add the oil in. That means we need more oil.
Gave it a little
Well,
jump
I rather,
start.
it is more economical. But the main thing is we're thinking of the dish first. And once you don't get the temperature right, there's a little too much oil in there, this stuff just doesn't get that zip, You want it to have zip. These are all leg pieces. You don't want to get shoulder pieces for this sort of dish. So we browned it up there nicely.
Wow, that was quick.
Oh yeah, we cooked it most of the way on the first side. It's basically done now. We can make the sauce for it. Alrighty, step back a little bit, Jen. I'll show you what we're going to do with this sauce. We're going to add a little bit of shallot to it. A little shallot and white wine again. I'm using the white wine today. We got a special on white wine. I'm going to add a little of this demi-glace. This is a brown reduction we made. Took us a couple of days to do, using veal bones, and we brown them in the oven and simmer them and simmer them and simmer them. But it kind of gives great color, and it's a neutral sort of thing that can help us with these dishes. I'm going to add a little stock to that. A little dash of lemon juice, fresh lemon juice. A little touch of cream. We don't want to over cream it, just a little accent to it, enrich the dish. A little white pepper. And some salt. We're also going to put some mushrooms in this particular dish. There we go. We'll get it back to the pan, and we're going to end up finishing it with a little butter. I want to get these cutlets out of the pan, however. Actually, I don't need that butter there. You can see it's got that nice velvety consistency.
Perfect.
Yeah. Anybody can make a thick sauce. Anybody can make a very, very thin sauce.
Hi, well, thank you for joining me and Dan in the dining room, ready to feast on all of the entrees Dan has made this evening. These are I have to say, these are very light, very simple things to make at home, and they're just delectable treats, so why don't we just kind of review them, Dan?
We had the linguine with the pesto. Again, don't use the basil. We had the Veal Nicholas with the shallot lemon white wine sauce. We had the loin of pork that we started in the pan, finished it in the oven with a little pizzaiola type sauce on it, and a basic shrimp scampi, my style.
Okay, well, it looks good. We're ready to eat. Thank you again for joining us this evening on Cooking with Dan Leslie. See you again next week.